So a couple weeks ago I made a video of me starting up the ice car after I got it out of the barn, putting it on the trailer and bringing it back to the house. Here it is sitting in the garage. Believe it or not, this car is actually supposed to look like this when it was new. And when I got it from the junkyard, here's a few of the photos. Obviously it wasn't too good. It had no rear end in it, the motor was tight, it was an original Studebaker V8 engine in it. I pulled all that out now. It's got a 305 Chevy motor in it, 3-speed stick, Saginaw. It's all stock engine. I got a set of new heads over here, not new heads, redone heads. They're actually 267 Chevy heads. A lot tighter chamber. I did some porting on them and polishing. Gasket matched them, did a lot of bowl work. It's got some heavier springs. I got a new cam over here for it. Actually it's used, but it had a very short run time on it. Fire it up and start it again after we recam it and see what it sounds like. So we got everything cleaned up now, ready to reassemble. The decks are all cleaned up. The timing chain cover surface is all cleaned up. Cam bearings actually look really good in this thing. No shine or anything, no ridge. Same with the cylinders. Not really any ridge at all on it. A little bit. Look pretty good yet. So at this point we'll start putting the heads on. Get the bolts cleaned up, torque those down. Get the cam slid in and keep going from there. Well, unfortunately, the last shot I had was of the block being cleaned up on here. I really wasn't planning on working on it the other night. Came home, started staring at it, and 3 or 4 hours later I had everything assembled. So all the assembly was done off camera. I did fire it up. It runs pretty good. I do want to take it for a test drive right now, so I'll swing the door open, fire it up, let you guys hear it, and then we'll go for a spin. There we go. Alright, we'll get the hood thrown on here and go for a test drive. So yeah, that cam swap and heads definitely made a huge difference on this thing. I know I really don't have any video of the past of running it on the ice or anything, at least from the inside of the car. And it's kind of hard to play back here on the trails. A lot of it's ice, and I know it's an ice car, but I don't have my good tires on it, and it's kind of hilly, so the car slides around. But those couple of stretches back there where you have some actual snow to get some traction on, this thing definitely goes a lot better than it did. And it sounds cooler, so that's an added bonus. Well, I definitely gained a bit out of that. A couple weeks yet. Before ice racing starts, I still have a few things to do with some weighting in it. I got my tires sitting over here. I'm going to prep those up over the next couple weeks, start soaking them and give them a little treatment. I got 2 new tires on the way for the front, for steer tires. And that's about it for today on this. I got some paint coming. I'm going to end up painting all the rub rails around. I don't want to paint anything on the body. I just want to maintain the look that it has. I'm not going to fix any of the rips or dents because that's what this car was. I really don't want to interfere with that, but I did kind of paint my front bumper and stuff the other day, so I think I'll just black out the rails. Other than that, 3 weeks to go before the first points race and practice day, which we'll learn a lot more about how that motor responds and some of the things I'm going to do to the suspension. We'll figure out a lot more about that on practice day. At the shop, I'm currently working on a new ice drag. What we do with the ice drag is you actually drag it around the track and scrape up the ice to get a little more traction for the non-studded classes. The rear wheel drive non-studded, which is what my car is, and the front wheel drive non-studded. This is actually our pit shack right here that you'd come in and you'd pay here if you were going to race. It's $5 to get into the pits. And that's actually our score tower where I think 3 or 4 people usually watch out the window and they score everyone as they come across the line. We also have a radio broadcasting setup in there where we have an announcer that broadcasts out to the cars watching the races. I'll show you guys more about that when we get that far. But this is actually our old ice drag right here. I think it's about 40 inches wide. It's got some teeth cut in it. They kind of taper up and they're flat on this side. As far as I can remember, this is the only thing they've had for years. It's kind of small. We usually keep it in this shack and have an engine block in there, an empty Chevy small block in there that we throw on it and strap down for weight and drag it around. We're going a little bigger. I actually have a boat trailer I'm doing up so we can actually lift the tires off the ice and drop the blade to the ice. And we're going to go with more of a 6 to 7 foot blade on the back. Basically cut our time in half from the width of this one. Super happy with the way the cam and head swap turned out on here. Noticeable increase in power on it. Absolutely. Runs a lot smoother, more responsive in the throttle. I guess that's pretty much it for performance or engine upgrades on the thing for the year, which it really did actually need. I mean, the cam was pretty much wiped out and everything, so I'll definitely have a little more pull. Got some tire prep to do yet. I'm going to black out the rub rails around this thing. I'm not going to touch the body at all. I want to leave that as original as possible. I made a lot of these rub rails like around the tires and stuff to protect them on the ice. Probably going to put the Lexan windows in it yet and the heater core for a defrost on the windshield. And probably put it on scales one more time and see where we're at after I adjusted that front axle a little bit. So that's about it. We got a few more things to do on it. 3 weeks to go before the first, well, before practice day and the first points race. So I'll definitely have that video up from practice day and from the first race day when we get there. I'm gonna head down to the shop now and start working on that ice drag, on the newer, bigger ice drag with the retractable suspension, so we don't have to pick up engine blocks and weights and all that kind of garbage. So that's about it. 3 weeks to go. Till next time. On a side note, this is where it's all going to take place. Our track usually gets set up over here in this area. This is actually the boat landing right here. You drive in off the main road, come off, we kind of veer off to the side here, build our track out this direction. The spectator path gets pulled forward or plowed forward, goes around the outside of the track with usually about a 30 to 50 foot buffer between the track and the spectators, and in case someone spins out or goes over the bank. But we got about 11 inches of ice out here right now. The ice fishing shanty town. Let's see if we can even get it in frame here. Yep. All the shacks over there in the distance. A lot of people out there already, and in a couple of weeks when you can actually drive vehicles out here, believe me, there's going to be about 10 times the amount of shacks out there. So 11 inches of ice. We're going to look for at least 14 before we start driving out there, marking it out and plowing it. And we usually like to have at least 16 to 18 before we start parking, I don't know, roughly 50, 60 car haulers and trailers out here. So it's looking pretty good for 3 weeks. It's Christmas Eve right now. We should definitely be able to start by January 5th or 6th. Till next time.